Hi guys. So this video is walking you guys through your second essay assignment. And in this unit, we read a number of different poems across movements, across genres, from different authors. And there's a lot of different ways you could connect these poems, whether that's across the structure, the voice, the themes, the literary elements that are used. So your prompt is pretty simple. This is going to be essentially a compare and contrast essay. So you're going to choose two poems from two different authors that we read in this unit and compare and contrast those in terms of literary analysis. So you should use the graphical organizer that you completed. You should use all the materials, lecture materials, to help guide your analysis. So you could choose poems that seem to naturally fit together, or you could choose ones that don't naturally fit together. The choice is up to you. You're going to need to show how they're similar and different in terms of literary style and elements, theme, voice, imagery, figures of speech, all the things we talked about. Again, you don't need to discuss every single literary element that we talked about in this unit, but you should center your argument around a selection of, say, 2 to 3. So kind of like in your first essay where you have a driving literary element that you're going to discuss, whether that's theme or symbolism or whatever it might be, you should do the same thing here. So have a very specific set of things that you want to talk about when you compare these two poems, because otherwise it might just go all over the place, and you want your argument to stay narrow and focused and concrete. So you need to have at least 2 sources in this essay to support your claims. Again, they must be credible. I highly recommend things like biography or history or PBS or .edu websites. Nothing like gradesaver.com or 123helpme.com. SparkNotes, again, it's okay, but it's really not an elevated, credible, scholarly source. So just try to find really solid sources to support your claims. Your essay is due on Sunday, July 12th at 11:59 p.m. 3 to 4 pages in length, standard MLA. Everything's checked for plagiarism and must be, of course, the minimum page length. Otherwise, you do lose points. You guys can see the poems. There's a lot of choices. So choose ones that spoke to you. Choose ones that you enjoyed. Choose ones that you have something to say about. Because when you're engaged with the text that you're talking about, it's much easier to write those 3 pages. Make sure you use the terminology, the literary terminology that we talked about in your analysis. And again, pull good, solid evidence in the form of quotes from your sources. So from your sources and from the poems themselves. If you're going to tell me that theme from English B has, a certain rhyme scheme or whatever, it might be a certain rhythm or rhyme scheme, then you should show that to me. If you're going to talk about the structure of Fire and Ice, you need to show that with quotes. One thing I did want to kind of point out when we are analyzing poetry, and a lot of people tend to forget this, is how to integrate poems into your analysis. So I'm actually going to write something here for you guys, but essentially when you have a quote from a poem, you have a line from a poem, you write it as simply, you'd write like, say, whatever it might be, how do I love thee, and then that's line 1, and then for line 2 you simply put a slash, and then you say, let me count the ways, and then whatever the punctuation is, it's always at the end. Say it's a semicolon, I can't remember at this point, but I love thee to the depth and breadth. Say it's like that, and height my soul can reach. Sorry. So say, for example, that was the 4 lines I wanted to cite. Or that's how I would incorporate the quote. So a lot of times I know people will simply copy and paste it and instead do like a line, a line, a line, a line. Don't do that. Yes, it's a great way to take up space. No, it's not correct. The only time that you will do block quotes, which is where you do, a line and then a line on line, is when you have longer than 4 lines when written out. So you have to be longer than this times 4. So not just 4 lines of the poem, but 4 lines. So likely many of these are very short poems. You won't be using block quotes. And even if you do use block quotes, they need to be single-spaced quotes. So just remember that. That's just a little hint on how to write, to integrate the evidence into your analysis. So another thing to keep in mind is that you should not create separate paragraphs for each author. This is a lot of times what people do when they do a compare and contrast. If, for example, you did Dunn's The Flea, and then Theme for English B, you do one paragraph for Theme for English B, and another for The Flea, and then another paragraph for Theme for English B, and then The Flea. That's not how it should be done. An elevated argument takes a thematic concept and compares and contrasts, shows how they're similar or different across that concept. So, for example, if I was going to do not go gentle into that good night, and because I could not stop for death, my first main idea might be that the theme of death is prevalent in both poems. And then I would show how it's prevalent in this one, and then I would show how it's prevalent in this one within that theme. And then a second main idea might be that the author's own experiences helped inform the subject matter. And then I would talk about how Dickinson was here, and how the other author had his own experiences in Do Not Go Gentle that informed the idea. And then a third main idea might be like, I don't know, something like the rhyme scheme of each poem is important because of X, Y, Z. And then I would show why the rhyme scheme here helps, develop the messaging or the tone, and then the same thing with this one. So it's, again, a bad example, but it does give you the idea of how you should structure your argument and not keep these as separate analyses, one for each poem. So some things to think about. So how do the works connect in terms of theme or other literary elements? Where are the structures similar? Where are they different? And how does that impact meaning? How do the differences and similarities between the author's biographies or the historical situation help create that meaning? How does the social, political, economic context around the work help inform, the goals or the messaging from the author? So you're going to be assessed on making sure you have a good, fully developed argumentative thesis statement in your introduction. So, for example, that might be something like, I don't know, to the virgins to make much of time and the road not taken, both center on the theme of lost opportunities. And then I would say my main ideas are, the rhyme scheme creates this type of meaning, the symbolism of lost time is represented in these ways, and the structure of the poem does X, Y, and Z. Make sure you have good evidence, again, from your texts and from your secondary sources to support your claims. Proper page length, MLA, proper number of sources and citations, as always, with the bibliography. A fully developed essay structure, including a significant introduction with a thesis claim, main ideas with evidence, and conclusion. And then good, clear organization across these thematic concepts rather than having a section for each author. So again, I want you guys to choose what spoke to you. I want you to choose what's most interesting to you to talk about when you analyze those poems. Let me know if you have any questions. Happy to, if you have, ideas that you want to shoot past me, feel free. Happy to respond. And let me know if you have questions. Thanks.